I think I saw a bloopers video of you doing that in I don't know if it was you that posted it or Sharko.
What video? Oh, meowing? Oh,
It
no.
was you doing the monkey sound.
Oh, ooh, yeah. It's either a meow or the monkey sound.
Is that
Yeah.
like your warm up?
Yeah, I think it breaks the ice, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Because if
definitely.
someone just makes a monkey sound, you suddenly go, "What the fuck?" Like it just kind of pattern interrupts the whole situation,
Yeah.
and it helps with feeling comfortable in an environment.
I think
for
that's
me.
like a big thing in a social setting, especially when you meet someone. It's like, yeah, I'll probably go on in the podcast.
Yeah, I used to get my students to go up to random strangers and meow at them.
Yeah.
To show that you could say and do whatever.
100%, it works.
It's all the intention behind the meow,
Yeah. I feel anything you
It's the
say
tone.
with confidence
Yeah.
helps. Okay. Welcome to the third episode of the Path Talk Show. I have an interesting guest. She is a dating coach. She's an actress. She was on the Raising the Bar, Smashed, and Too Dark. She was also a SAS contestant in 2021, if I'm correct. And she was if you have ever read the book The Game, she's worked with a lot of the coaches from there, including, if you know, RSD. She is one of the kind. She's a great pickup artist as well as dating coach. Welcome, Sarah Jeavons.
Wow, thank you. What an intro. A pleasure to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Oh, same, man. It's great talking to you a bit earlier about your background in all this world. And yeah, it's crazy how, like we were talking about, the matrix of the game. And once you get into it, it's like you go through a different dimension, a different world, and you see things in a different light.
Yeah, was that your experience getting into the game?
Yeah, it was kind of funny, right? Like, I know a friend introduced me to it, and once I got into it and seeing him doing what he was doing at first, and I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. Like, I never seen this in person, but before that, I saw that through David D'Angelo when he used to run conferences, and he used to get like a lot of pickup artists involved in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty wild as a woman to go into that world because it's obviously 99.99% male demographic that is in pickup because since the beginning of time, it's always been men that pursue women. And that's still, even with modern dating, that's a big part of how we all connect in dating. And so to me, it was pretty cool because I didn't know there was a place where guys could go to learn dating skills to build their confidence up with women. So it's pretty cool, like being the only woman like coming into these big conferences in the US and actually, seeing guys actively learn and build their confidence with women. So it really sucked me in.
And how were you introduced to it?
I was at a party in LA in an apartment at the W Hotel because that was the place to be in 2018. And a friend of mine was like, oh, you got to meet this guy, Nick Coe, who runs this dating company. And I was like, okay. I was just networking and meeting lots of new people in LA, as you do. It's a real hub for meeting lots of people. Some are bullshit artists and some have great opportunities. And I just happened to find a great opportunity within Nick Coe and RSD at the time. And they wanted someone to come on board to do a world tour. So that's how I got into it. Nick actually said, hey, I'm going to go on a world tour. Can you help me with running my events? And so that was my in. And I had 2 weeks of training. And I got a backpack and I got sent back to Australia to start doing my shows. So I did my first show in Brisbane, then went to Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, New Zealand, back over to Europe. It just didn't stop for 2 years straight. I just had a schedule that Nick had created. So I owe that whole opportunity to him to get in there. And it was pretty amazing. I learned so much. Like as a 21-year-old going through that experience, it really shapes you. You're either going to sink or swim. And thank God I managed to keep my head above water and came out with so much growth. It was just wild.
Yeah, that is incredible. And what was like your biggest epiphany going into the pickup industry?
Biggest epiphany? Well, that's an interesting question. My biggest epiphany, I feel like there was multiple epiphanies along this journey, and I really just had to adapt. That was I'd say the main main thing I was doing was adapting, always adapting, doing things I'd never done, coming up with content for a workshop that had never been done before, not getting some guidance, but not a lot with marketing and learning how to get clients and start building up the sales and everything. It was just so much to learn how to run a team and have assistants and go out to bars and clubs and get infield footage like we were talking about earlier. It was just, there was multiple epiphanies. I think the first shock, though, to the system was definitely, living in a little house in the Hollywood Hills with like 16 other guys, being the only girl, in this little 2-bedroom apartment with bunk beds and stuff. That was a real shock to the system.
That would have been.
Yeah, it was like being on SAS again. And, you're just sharing this space with all these guys and you're in their world. It just feels strange, as a woman, where you're like, damn, like you're like undercover. That's what it felt like for me.
Yeah, and how did you feel being amongst all the males? Did they made you feel like you're left out, or they made you feel like you're a part of the family?
Yeah, it was definitely a big family. Yeah, I never felt unsafe with them. I was always, good energy. But yeah, definitely a bit lonely sometimes. And I feel like sharing of the bathroom was not pleasant. I think they could have leveled up with the cleaning of the bathroom. But besides that, it was a good experience. Again, you just got to, whatever your situation is, and I guess that's how I've always been my whole life, you make do with what you have. You find a way to find comfort in places that are uncomfortable or situations that are uncomfortable. And because of that, I came out of it with lots of cool life experiences. And so I can sit down and have a conversation about it now.
That's cool. And what's like one story that sticks out to you that when you went into the pickup community and you started your first workshop?
The first workshops?
The first workshop.
Yeah, they progressively got more intense as I went along. The first workshop, oh my goodness, that was in Brisbane. I think the one that stands out though was probably the Melbourne one, and there was about 150 people. Or it was a big group. It was my first sort of big-ish audience by myself. And I was in charge of setting up the camera, putting my microphone on, setting up the room. I had no assistant with me. So I was doing it all by myself with nearly 200 people. So that was quite intense. And then the way that they would do their tours is you would get up and talk for about 4 hours, so 7 till 10. But usually the whole style of most of the coaches from this company, they would just talk for 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours and go to 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. So that's what I learned from through observation. My other colleagues, my other coaches that are in this company, that's what they do. So at the beginning, Nick was still doing his presentation. So I would set up a projector. He would do his presentation. Then I would talk for a couple of hours and then I would, sell people into the workshop. And then eventually I took that over. But at the beginning, there was just a lot that you had to manage and you had to just do it. There was no time to think, which I think really helped me get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like when you first get started into especially public speaking, there's a lot to think of because you want to be able to focus on connecting with the audience and making sure they understand the content. And from there, you're working through a certain time frame as well. There's so much. And I don't know about you, but when I did a first ever public speaking event, I had a massive headache afterwards. But I think it was because I was dehydrated as well. And sometimes you forget to have water.
Yeah, you got to be prepped. You got to be prepped and ready for public speaking. I had a few moments like that when I was doing shows. I would go to a different city every 2 days and it was full on. So I would do, anywhere between 4 to 6 hours speaking. Then I would take the guys out to bars and clubs to sometimes 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. And then I would have to get up, take a flight and do it all over again. So my voice was, it was very important to make sure I always had tea or turmeric shots and ginger. And on stage, I would always be drinking a tea for my throat to make sure that, you don't lose your voice. Because if you lose your voice, you can't present, you can't coach. So it was very important.
So easy to do. Yeah. I know from doing a lot of wrestling coaching, I had to yell over the music most of the time. So I know the first couple of times I've lost my voice, but then you really learn how to speak through your diaphragm, which is a great experience. And I feel once you know how to do that, your voice changes completely.
Yeah, it's sexy.
It is.
That was an exercise we used to do a lot, is speaking from that diaphragm. It just changes the whole energy, and you can project so much further. Like you can really project to, the other end of the room. So we do a lot of interactive exercises like that. And of course, then you can, apply that to being in a loud club or at a loud event or something. So someone can actually hear you without yelling from, the nasal area for someone to hear. It's a really different experience. So that was one of the most important things for guys to learn with their voice in these workshops.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel, especially night game, it's so interesting. Like, I see a lot of people out there, especially back in the day when I used to go out like 3 to 4 nights a week just to practice the game, because I was like still new to it and I was learning craft on like YouTube, looking for fancy tricks all the time. But over time, I started to realize there's a pattern. And you get to see the same thing over and over again, what people are using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still use some of those techniques?
You know what? It actually taught me a lot about women, the way they think, how they are emotional creatures, and just how to connect with them. But for me, I felt like it helped me in a way to become my true self. So now when I'm speaking to someone, I'm completely vulnerable with them. I'm being present with them. And there's a different type of attraction when you put that present you in front of someone.
Yeah, it definitely feels different than the robotic planned lines. But, we talk a lot of trash about that in the industry, but the reality is you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
And without going through that path, you probably wouldn't have made it to where you can be authentic. A lot of guys don't even know what authentic means to them. They have to go through that to realize, hey, those lines, that doesn't feel like me. But they got to go through that just to build, that understanding that that's not them. So I think as much as there's some stuff in this space, in the pickup world, that I just think is total bullshit, I do think that you go through it and then you can, it's like a tricycle, you got those training wheels, and then once you start to develop your confidence and you realize what you just expressed then, hey, I can be myself and I can do this and I don't have to pretend to be that guy. Oh, awesome. And then they can take off those training wheels and suddenly you're cruising.
That's so true. And I feel a big thing as well, like a lot of people tend to focus on, okay, what's going to be my opener? I need to be able to open this girl. I just don't know how to do it. It's like they ask their friends, and usually from what I've asked other girls, a lot of like guys tend to go up and say the same thing over and over again. And over time, I realized the importance of opening is just being able to break someone's pattern. Where, I don't know, sometimes I used to just go up to someone and just say, what do you have for breakfast?
Great question. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. And you see like someone's face just like, oh.
What did this guy just ask me?
What did he just ask me? It's like, like they had to break out of like this automatic like type of behavior and actually had to focus on you.
Yeah, that's why I loved the meow game. When I had guys that were terrified to go up to someone, I just go meow at someone. And they go, are you serious? Like, yeah, just, you got to break out of this, I've got to get everything perfect. I've got to say the perfect thing to this person, especially when you're out in a social environment. Why do people go out? Like, why do they go out on the weekend? They've had
pick up.
Well, they've had a big week.
Yeah.
Why are girls going out to go dancing with their friends? They've had a big week. Let's go out. Let's relax. Let's have fun. So already, if you're going to those environments, people are wired because they want to have fun. So if someone comes up to me and goes, meow, and I'm in that vibe and I'm out with my girlfriends, I go, meow, like I'll engage with that energy. That's why I'm out. And so it's actually not that strange when you start to think about social environments and how humans connect. Now, I'm not saying that everyone needs to go up and meow or start going, ooh, ooh, ah, ah, like a monkey. But it really helps you learn that it's about self-expression. And if you get good at that, you give other people in your social environment permission to be themselves, be a little bit silly and playful and childlike, which adults lose. They lose this connection with their childlike play. And that's how we've always connected our whole lives. So when you go out to the clubs, it's not about being the coolest person. It's actually about being that person who can express and knows how to communicate that in a way that encourages connection. That's all it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how important is it to focus on your communication skills
Oh, yeah.
in terms of going out?
It's the most important thing. Yes. Good communication will get you a hell of a long way. Yeah. If you can be someone who's charismatic and able to have fun, which is easier said than done. Some people pick this up a lot faster than others. Some are born with this natural charisma. Others really have to work hard, just like anything. I'm not that great at maths, so I have to work a lot harder than somebody else to understand equations and things like that. It's the same. For me, socializing comes quite easily. Connecting with people, expressing myself comes quite easily. So in my coaching experience, I really had to learn, as you mentioned earlier, how can you simplify what it is that you're teaching to these guys and actually explain it in an analytical, logical, clear way. And that's been a big challenge for me over the last 6 years of me being in this space. And I'm starting to get it. You know, I did a presentation the other day with a group of couples actually, and they were like, "Oh, Sarah, thanks so much for simplifying communication and not trying to consume everything on the internet and read every book about communication, and just bubble it down to a couple of key things that you need to work on as an individual. And you're going to have so much progress than trying to consume everything out there and then getting this paralysis, you know, through analysis paralysis.
One of them.
That's a big one though. The guys, seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
You meet guys that I reckon they know more than me, but when you look at how much they're doing in real life, there's a huge gap. So you know all of this, but how much are you putting into practice? How much are you actually doing in real life? And there's always a big gap with these guys that talk the talk but don't walk the walk.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Crazy. And I know for a fact, I always tell people this, what makes a great coach is a coach that can make a complicated process a simple one.
Yeah.
They know how to simplify it for anyone to understand and follow. And it's just so important. What do you find is the biggest influence in the modern day concepts of the pickup culture?
What are the influences?
Yeah, especially the book The Game, where are people actually still using the same techniques, or do you see it's actually evolved since back then, since The Game?
Yeah, look, I think we've evolved, but there's some things that are universal and they're always going to be there. If we stay on the topic of openness, for example, you're always going to have to learn how to start a conversation. You're always going to have to learn how to keep a conversation going. You're always going to have to learn how to take it from friends to something with maybe a more romantic intent. And then you're going to have to learn how to end a date and say goodbye. So there's certain things that, they'll never change. But the way that it's being done, yeah, I think there's some modern dating changes and shifts that have happened in the world. But I do believe that there's stuff that's just never going to change. That's how we are as humans, and that's just built into us. So if you can master how to do those couple of things, you're going to be good to go. But it's easier said than done, you know, when you actually start getting into it. You're like, how do I open? Oh, well, there's an infinite amount of ways to open. So in terms of influences, yeah, you could look at the online dating world, and that's always a big topic. I often get asked a lot of questions around that. And I think, yeah, okay, there's dating apps and they resemble gambling in many ways. And you go on there and you're swiping away and you can get addicted to that, which a lot of people do. And analytical guys, I see them get spreadsheets up and they're trying to work it out. And they're like, Sarah, I'm trying this and doing that. And I think they're spending a lot of time on the wrong thing. And people say it's old school. I don't think it's old school. I just think it's a normal behavior is to go out and socialize and meet people in real life and create a lifestyle around meeting people, the right people you want to meet. Because a top question I get asked is, where do you meet these high quality women, Sarah? Where do I go? And I ask them, well, what do you do in your day to day? What do you do week to week? Oh, I go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. How many women are at the gym? One? None, right? If you're in environments where there isn't a lot of the kind of people you want to be around, then you've got no opportunities. So with no opportunities, it doesn't matter how prepared you are, you can't put that into action. So the lifestyle is a huge piece. And you hear that a lot with, create a good social circle so that you meet people. And now I've seen a big trend of male photographers coming through, and they're going down this path of hosting events or doing big days where they shoot 10, 20 models, and that's how they meet women,
I've seen that.
Have you seen that? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny, especially when it comes to bikini bikini shoots
Yep.
or naked shoots. You see a lot of them tend to have a certain niche in order to meet these women.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I like, good on them. They're doing something. They're proactive. It's starting to have this entrepreneurial effect where I don't even know what you call it, but because I'm in the space and I'm looking at this stuff all the time, I'm looking at guys' photos or their social medias, how they present themselves, because as you would know, having a business, and I've got a business myself, we're talking about the color yellow for the brand, right? How do you want to market yourself in dating? And a lot of guys, their initial response is, I don't like taking photos of myself, Sarah. I don't do that. I'm like, okay, I get that. You're not out here trying to be an entrepreneur, lifestyle male model on Instagram, but you have to know how to take some good photos of yourself and how to present your social media, which is a whole dating app in and of itself.
That's
right?
true.
When you meet someone out, I'll be like, hey, have you got Instagram? Just over this weekend at Adelaide Motorsports Festival here in Adelaide,
Yeah.
I asked that many people what their Instagram was. Some of them asked their number, some of them Facebook, and I would tease them about the Facebook thing.
Yeah.
But that's our way of connecting these days. That's the business card.
That's so fascinating. And what do you find is the most common thing you see on guys' Instagrams that is holding them back in terms of what they're posting?
It's just nature and food, and it's not them. I feel like a lot of men don't realize how sexy they are, how attractive they are, all of the great things that are within them. They just don't know how to bring it out and how to capture it. And that's what I love helping them with. Like, hey, did you know that we can get a really amazing photo of you and you can look great? And a lot of guys just don't believe that they're desirable. They don't believe that they have that in them. So it's probably one of my favorite things to do is like go out and take some photos of my clients and then show them, and the look on their face when they realize how hot they are. They're like, fuck, that's me? Yes, that's you dingbat. Because when a woman goes on a date with you, you have to look in the mirror and be able to know that you're sexy as fuck. Otherwise, how is she going to see that in you?
Yeah, that's so true. And
Yeah.
I feel that comes down to a lot of mental health issues as well, because there's a lot of trauma of them going up where they're being rejected, or they just felt like they never fit into society. Like I know myself as a kid, I had dyslexia and a speech impairment.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I struggled to connect with people. Because like I was that introverted kid who used to be by himself, and I used to play by myself as well. I used to watch movies, pretend I was a superhero, and just had fun.
Yep.
And yeah, I ended up getting bullied for that. So I just remember growing up, like I just struggled until the point I started wrestling. And I feel there's a lot of people out there that probably went through similar experiences where they feel like they're going to be rejected, they're not accepted in society. And a lot of people struggle with finding a place to belong.
Yeah, I love everything you're saying. I feel like it's that quest in everyone's life. And sometimes you look at people and you think that they've got it all figured out and that they feel that they belong when you're looking from, the outside in. But I feel like everybody goes through that. Like what you're saying, I can relate to. It makes me think about like my imaginary friend that I would play with, as a kid. Mainly because my older siblings, when we were younger, like wouldn't include me in stuff, or I'd always be the piggy in the middle, or I'd always be the one that was it.
And how did that make you feel?
Not great. Yeah, I think I definitely, suffered from that, feeling like I didn't fit in anywhere. Even in high school, I didn't feel like I ever fitted in with a group of people. So you kind of you feel like you're nowhere. You don't have that. You're not in the cool group. You're not in the nerdy group. And you say, well, what am I? Who am I? And I think that's been one of the coolest things to discover is you're so unique and you can fit anywhere and you can go anywhere and you can connect with anyone. And that's what I love. I can connect with someone who's a super nerd, or I can connect with someone, who's in that cool group, as you would call it. So yeah, everything you're saying is spot on. And you got to find that as a guy and realize it. And that helps you in dating, like your confidence.
Absolutely.
If you realize how, with your speech impediment, for example, or dyslexia, if you can own that, and you can talk about it. And again, I don't know much about your journey with that, but I've worked with guys with autism and guys in like wheelchairs. And this one guy in Paris, he had cerebral palsy, and I just teased the fuck out of him, in an empowering way, because you got to own it. Otherwise, everyone's walking on eggshells. They're like, should I say something about it? Should I not say something about it? He obviously knows he's in a wheelchair, but would that be rude if I commented on the fact that he was in a wheelchair? This is what people are going through. So when you address the elephant in the room, everyone relaxes. So you got to take that responsibility, whether, you're in your wheelchair, you're like, there's one guy, one of the first workshops I did, I got assigned to work with this guy and he was in one of those electric wheelchairs. And by the end of the night, we had girls jumping on his lap, like going for rides through the bar. Like, it's all about the narrative, the way you frame your situation. Or otherwise, if you're the victim, you'll be the victim.
100%.
Yeah. So again, I don't know much about how you process that, but you're sitting here hosting a podcast. So that's pretty awesome.
There you go. I'll probably unpack that soon.
Yep.
But it kind of reminds me of this guy I interviewed back in 2020 or 2021. His name was Nick. So he's a public speaker for Tony Robbins. Same thing. Had one arm, no legs. And he actually wrestled in high school as well. So he is a big fan of being able to pick up, and he ended up, I don't know if he's engaged or marrying one of the most beautiful women
I feel like I've seen him. Yeah. I think I know who you're talking about.
He's quite popular.
Yeah. So inspiring.
Yeah, 100%.
Incredible. But that's the thing. Like, there he is marrying a beautiful, gorgeous, incredible woman. He didn't let his situation get the better of him. And there is millions of men out there and women that let that get them. And so to have people like him and even yourself, like, getting out there and, like, be people that don't let that, take over. And it will inspire so many people. So that's awesome.
100%. And I know for me, like, especially growing up being a professional athlete, traveling the world, and I was training like 2 to 3 times a day. And all I knew was I was just an athlete. And after I competed at the Commonwealth Games when I was like 17 years old, I got pushed aside from my coach and says, Justin, you've always been focusing on training. You only compete. You know who Justin the athlete is, but you don't know who Justin the person is. And I feel for me personally, that's where my personal growth journey begun, where I started to figure out who am I as a person and how can I put myself out there and meet cool people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I think a lot of people would resonate with that. They attach your identity becomes Justin the wrestler, or Sarah the dating coach, or Sarah the actress, or, Sarah the influencer, whatever it is. So I think you can wear lots of different hats, but if you make your whole life Justin the wrestler, then you do miss out on so many cool potential experiences out there.
You do. And tell me a lot about your acting journey, because I'm quite curious, because I'm getting into the world myself. So I'm still trying to put the puzzles together.
Yeah, I saw that. I love that. I saw your profile. I know all the details, all your measurements now.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No, it looks awesome. I love acting. We briefly discussed it before we jumped on. And my new acting coach actually said, I loved his passion. He's studying psychology. He's already studied acting for years. And he just said that acting is self-development. It's just this, and I think that's the same as dating. When you choose to commit to learning dating, it's like this self-development opportunity like no other, and it's just thrilling. And that's how I feel about acting. I've always loved the idea of playing different characters and challenging myself emotionally and physically. Like, how, what would it feel like to play a person that's completely different to me? So I started acting when I was 13 and went to an acting school here in Adelaide for 3 years, and then got my first feature film when I was 15 years old.
Is that Raised in a Bar?
No, I only had a small part in that, but I played the lead actress in this movie called Inner Demon, and it was shot here, and it was pretty cool to just be on set. Kind of scary. We were always shooting at night, and it was quite intense, the whole experience. It was a very emotional, scary role, running away from these serial killers. And I just learned so much, like, about how a set works and all your marks you got to hit, and continuity when you're doing a scene. If they have to reshoot it, you got to do everything exactly the same as you did it the first time and also make it look real. And so that really helped me learn a lot. And I got to travel to Spain to go to an international film festival because the movie got into that. I got to go to Berlinale in Germany for it as well. Got to go to LA. So then I learned about the behind the scenes of the business of film. And that was equally as thrilling. I was like, damn, this is a whole business. It's not just about the art of acting. It's like understanding how to network in that whole environment, because that's all it is. You go to these film festivals. I don't know if you've been to many, and it's just networking.
Only the one in Sydney, but I haven't been to the ones overseas yet.
Yeah, you will. You will. Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's so cool, but I love it. So,
yeah. I love it too because you have to buy into the circumstance where you do so much research on your character. What are the relationships they have with these certain individuals? Putting your attention on the other person, identifying other people's behaviors. But I feel like when you put your focus on the other person, it makes the job so much easier.
Yep, definitely. Then you're just responding to that person. And if you know your character, you know your character's history, you know the emotion, fueling them in that moment, everything comes naturally. It's a lot easier to play the character. But if you're consumed with the lines, we all know what happens. It just sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And that's the same it's the same with dating though. And I think that's actually really helped me as a dating coach, because you're playing a role in some way when you go out there, and you're playing yourself, which for some people is the hardest character that they'll ever have to play. Because how terrifying to be myself. I'm going to be myself. You know, that's vulnerable. Like, what are people going to think about me? So it's...
And it goes back down to what people say about like the nice guy, right? Nice guy syndrome. But this is my perspective on it, really, is the people that are being nice all the time is just because they're needing something. They become needy, hence why they get stuck in a friend zone, or they're not getting that much dates. I believe personally, you can be a nice guy, but you have to be genuine when you're like going out there and introducing yourself.
Yeah, the nice guy thing's interesting. Nice guys terrify me.
Yeah?
What do they want from me? Like,
in terms of like neediness, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're wanting something from you, whether it's an affirmation or, you know, or if I'm nice to you, then I get X. And that's what it can feel like. And as a woman, you can sense that. Most women can sense when, okay, he's being really nice, but what for? Rather than, okay, this guy's a kind man and that's just who he is. He's not doing it out of a place of insecurity or neediness. There's a real difference with those two type of men, and you can feel it as a woman. So women will protect themselves and put a wall up if there's that nice guy that they can feel wants something. But if they're a kind person that just has these values and that's a normal part of what they do with anyone, not just with a hot girl that they're trying to impress, now suddenly the whole dynamic shifts. And I think, you know, I see a lot of nice guys get stuck in the friend zone, of course, and they get comfortable because they're still getting a level of likability, a level of attention from women, but they're going nowhere. And they think that it's going to go somewhere, and that sucks. So to break that cycle is very important for guys. I work with a lot of men like that. You got to get out of that habit because, you know, you got to have more respect for yourself. That's kind of, I think, what it comes down to, respect and boundaries of how women can treat you.
Boundaries is such a big thing. Like, I feel not just like the nice guy, but people in general lack being able to set boundaries.
It's hard. It's hard to set boundaries. It's hard to enforce boundaries. It's terrifying. If you don't like confrontation, then boundaries are the scariest thing on this planet. I like my own experiences with boundary setting and enforcing has been really hard. As a person who can fall into the tendency of people pleasing, to actually say no to something is one of the best things you do in your life. To start saying no. And it could be as simple as saying no to going out and having a drink because you know that that's not a good environment for yourself. Just say no to your friends as an experiment and see how it feels. Do your friends respond and say, no, come on, like just one more drink or come out? And you start to realize, wow, you know, like are these the right kind of friends? But also it's a great opportunity for you to practice enforcing a simple boundary. And then you can apply that to different parts of your life, you know, relationships and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I think that's the great thing about, like, myself being an athlete, because if I had friends that were drinking or smoking weed at the back of high school, I was like, nah, I have to compete. I get drug tested. I have no time for this.
Yeah.
I was kind of funny, too, in a way where it's like, during the whole high school period, if a girl was interested in me, no, I can't. I have to focus on being an athlete. I need to get my results of making the Olympics, making the Commonwealth Games. I don't have time for a girlfriend. But it feels like when you set those boundaries, it makes you more of an attractive person
Yes.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, totally. I think a classic one that everyone can work on, especially guys if you want to lead dates better and just get better results with dates, is learning how to leave the date. You know how many guys stay on the date for way too long? Like you overstay your welcome. It's like going home with somebody and then hanging around the next day and be like, you want to get breakfast, lunch, or should we do something else in the afternoon? Like, you're just not reading between the lines. Like, get out of this person's space. If you can learn how to have an amazing date and maybe it goes for an hour or so, like, okay, it's going really well, awesome. But learn how to go, hey, this was awesome. I've got to go, but I'll see you next time. That is so powerful because then you're leaving that woman with an experience that now she can go home, she can reflect, she can think about, she can replay moments from the date, instead of a bad taste being left in her mouth, like, God, that dragged on.
Yeah.
So making sure that last thing that's left, in her memory is like, I want more of that man.
Time away makes the heart grow fonder.
That's right. Right. Desire, space creates, desire. Yep.
Yeah. And I feel that's where acting comes into play. And I know with doing combat sports where you can identify the behavior so much quicker when you put the attention on the other person. You can read their body language. What are they doing with their face? How they're positioning the body. You can really read into people in terms of how they're feeling. And you can see if you can escalate the situation or you need to pull back and, like you said, leave the date if you have to. And I feel as well with combat sports, being able, I know for me, my main love language is touch. Means I can feel. I think it's because of wrestling. It's such a physical sport. I can feel when someone's pulling away or trying to push into me. So you can feel when someone is comfortable with you compared to if they're not ready yet.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big one. A lot of guys are like, when do I physically escalate? When's the right time? And they can really get stuck, analysing the whole situation. Or did she touch her hair? Or wait, was she moving in? She definitely brushed against me. Wait, does that mean that she wants me to go in for the kiss? No. Should I? Oh, I can't tell. She's laughing. She's leaning in. Does that mean she likes me? You can just do your head in thinking about, someone's nonverbal communication and their body language. But it's an important skill to be able to tell and then take micro risks. I think the men that succeed most are the ones that know when to take a risk. You've got to have big balls to do it, but you've got to try something. And if they're not comfortable, then you read the feedback and you adjust. But there's guys that just never take that risk. They never try to escalate it. And so they stay stuck. And I hear so much feedback from women where they're like, I wanted him to kiss me. I was just like, why didn't he go in and kiss me at the end of the day? And some women, they feel like they give guys so many opportunities, but guys don't read it, or they're sitting in their head going, okay, wait, does she want me? Is this the moment? Should I just do it? Oh no, don't do it. Pull back, play hard to get. No, maybe I should go in. So they're so busy in their heads instead of being present and just going for it. It's quite simple. Don't fill your head with all this stuff. Just know, hey, I'm going to back myself in. And that's why I spoke about desirability at the start of this conversation, because if you don't think you're hot and desirable, then why would you go in for the kiss? So it's important to have that self-confidence in dating if you want to have more success.
Yeah, I feel that, like what you were saying, it comes down to a lot of people being insecure to actually make the move. And for some people, it's quite scary. I remember when I started just interacting with people for the first time, it was one of the most scariest feelings. And then when you slowly learn how to escalate from there, is what's going to make the biggest difference at the end of the day. And I don't know, I just know from personal experience, just from feeling things out and going on dates, is if they touch me, if I touch them back, if I feel if I go for a side hug, are they going to give me a side hug back? If they're going to hug me, are they going to hug me back? And then from there, it's what if I whisper something in her ear? Is she going to move away? And I feel there's little indicators for me personally if I was to go in for a kiss before actually making the move.
Yep. What do you look for? Tell us. Have you got a girlfriend or?
Oh no, not at the moment.
No, you're dating. Okay, I like it.
Yeah. I just find it fun, especially going on dates, especially if you don't know the person.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting, especially, I don't know. Usually it always starts off like this, how we're sitting.
So far away. You're so far away from me.
Exactly. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to show her a video or photo just so I could sit next to her.
That's great. I love that. I love that. That's a good move, you know?
100%.
It's like, well, I have to come over there to show you this thing. So you create that proximity.
Exactly.
And it's so much easier. I think dinner dates can be some of the most awkward dates because you're so far away from each other. It's a first interaction. It's very formal. So it can be a lot harder to connect and create that intimacy. So gentlemen, always go to the restaurants beforehand. I'd say it's a pro tip. Go, know the lay of the land at the restaurant. Know someone there. Go to the restaurant with a friend or go there by yourself, whatever. Are the seats comfortable? What's the layout of where the tables are? Because if you can be comfortable there, you're going to be a bit more relaxed. And if you're more relaxed, then you're going to be able to be yourself more and do things like that. But you've got to normalize the behavior of, hey, like, let me show you this thing and just jump over. You're not second guessing yourself. You're not hesitating. It's got to be very fluid, very natural for you. So just like practicing any skill, you've got to do it over and over again for it to become normal.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Well, repetition is the father and mother of all skills, right?
Ooh, love it. Little soundbite there.
Yeah, I feel like, I know, it's like anything. Like you're learning boxing at the moment, right? And you've done acting for so many years. Once you learn how to train the muscle, it just becomes like second habit. It's like breathing, in the other hand. You don't really have to think about it. You just do. Exactly.
And everyone can do that in dating. That's it. Just takes time. It might take you longer. So you got to stick at it. You can't just give up. There's no school that you go to for this. And I think that's partly one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the space, because everyone needs help. I swear to God, when I bring dating up around any dinner table, they go, oh my God, Sarah, I need your help. Dating sucks. Why is it so frustrating? There's such a negative story and narrative around dating. And, my dream is that we change that and go, dating is fun, and learning how to date and learning how to express ourselves can be fun. It doesn't have to be frustrating all the time.
Why do you think that is like that?
Why do you think it's frustrating?
Yeah.
I think people have
awkward.
Yeah, they have crappy experiences, so they start to shape all of dating to be bad. There's a lot of men and women that I know that base their whole experience in the dating world off of Tinder or Bumble or Hinge. And they go, oh yeah, I went on Hinge the other day and I didn't meet anyone over 2 hours of swiping. And they base their whole opinion about their experiences about dating through their 2 hours on a dating app. And it's so far from the truth. It's classic when I meet two people with two different mindsets about the same thing. The person with the negatively geared mindset, they always have dramatic, gossip and stuff about their experience with dating or how bad that their dates are going and things like that. The person with the more positive outlook, they always see the best in the situations. Oh, I had lots of fun, or yeah, we didn't really click, but we ended up hanging out anyway and we're great friends now. I actually introduced them to a friend of mine. That attitude, the shift of attitude, will transform your experiences in dating. I recently hosted a dating event in Melbourne, and I saw this firsthand. It's been a while since I've done some live events, and it was just classic to see some women coming up to me like, oh, this guy was terrible. I'm like, go and give it a shot. You're at a speed dating event. It's 8 minutes of your life. Just give it a shot. Yeah, instead of just having this bad attitude. Like, you're at a singles event. Embrace the fact that you're at a singles event. You're not going to get on with everybody, but have the human decency to have respect for 8 minutes with somebody. And it was wild to see some behaviours from grown adults of all different ages, from their 20s to their 50s to their 60s, how they were behaving. I was like, whoa.
The older ones are quite cheeky, eh?
Well, yeah, the older ones can be cheeky, and they can also act like kids,
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. The older ones wanted to go to the younger ones.
Yeah, I've seen that plenty of times. And a lot of them actually make like decent moves, and they have pure game. Like, they just feel like they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, it's like being in the jungle. Like, we're in the wild, watching people
in the forest. And
I know. Like, I love it. It's really entertaining.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel a big thing is a famous quote I love, is switch expectation for appreciation.
Ooh.
When you are in the moment, taking it step by step, and you're not having that expectation there, the night can end up anywhere you choose to, right? It can be, like you said, just hanging out as friends, or you might end up hooking up or getting into a relationship from there.
Yeah, I love that. You're speaking my language. Yeah, your expectation expectations in dating or what success in dating looks like needs to be a little bit wider than what most people make it. If I vibe with someone, it has to lead to a relationship and that's it. They have tunnel vision. Or if we kiss on the date, that must mean we're going to go home and have sex. No. Or we might not kiss or we might not, nothing might happen on the date, but that doesn't equal a failure. But so many guys think, okay, if nothing happened on the date, that's a failure. And so if you start to shift that expectation or remove the outcome expectation and have fun with it and still go for it and still have fun and adjust, on your dates, you'll suddenly open up, so many more experiences. Because I think something I see as a common trend with a lot of guys that I've worked with in the past and currently is they have a lack of experiences in dating. So the first girl that likes them, they latch onto them and think, oh, I better lock this one down. But in actual fact, they need more dating experiences to figure out what they actually want instead of settling for the first person that shows interest. And so, that person's dating goals are going to be very different to somebody who's in their mid to late 30s. They've been dating, dating's not the problem, but finding the right kind of person that wants a relationship or wants to start a family, their dating goals are going to be slightly different. So, there's not one size fits all. But a lot of people think, oh, success in dating, you must just get people married. I'm like, no, that is not the goal for me. If someone's self-sufficient with their dating skills and confidence, we've achieved it. If they can go out, they've got options, they know how to date, that's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel having options, especially at the start when you want to just put yourself out there and start dating a lot of women or even men as well, I feel you start to get a taste on what you like. Where I feel a lot of people nowadays just settle down for what they can get.
Dangerous territory.
It is.
Yeah, don't settle. But also in modern dating, a lot of people, I think one of your other podcast episodes, you were talking about this, how, there's lots of fear of missing out on FOMO. Yeah, you were talking about that. And I thought, yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people that half-ass, 1 foot in a relationship, 1 foot out, and they don't give it a good shot. And I was presenting to this couples group the other day, and it's not easy. Everyone thinks once you get in a relationship, it's a fairy tale, and that's absolute bullshit. That's when dating begins. That's when the real work begins. If you care about that person, you care about a sustainable future with that partner, you're going to go through ups and downs. And if you decide to walk away as soon as you have your first fight or argument, then of course you're going to have short relationships, you're going to have short flings, but your growth is going to be waiting for you at every relationship that you go to. It'll still be there because you're going to hit that same confrontation or that same potential friction that you have, and you've got to work through it as a team. Relationships are a team sport.
It is.
It's not, a player one. You've got to be together, and you're two completely individual people coming together and working each other out. Do you know much of Alan de Botton's stuff from he founded the School of Life?
No, actually.
You would love, well, you might not. I don't know what you like. But he's hilarious. He's a writer and a philosopher and a comedian. He's not actually a comedian, but I think he is. And he really simplifies and makes light of modern dating. And the first video I ever watched, my brother sent it to me, and it was called Why You'll Marry the Wrong Person. And he talks a lot about romanticization of things and how it's this movie fairy tale, narrative that we all have about love.
Yeah.
And we think, that's one day I'm going to get that fairy tale and that's what it's going to be like. But the reality is we're complex individuals. And if you're going to spend the rest of your life with somebody, that's a long time. You think you're going to be the same person in 10 years from now? What about next year? You're going to be different. So you've got to learn how to move and grow together. And that's something that doesn't get spoken about enough. I've been with my partner for 4 years and we're always evolving. And we started doing counselling. And counselling is very taboo because a lot of people think, well, you just do counselling when you're on the rocks. That's how my parents did it. That's how most people I know, when you're about to break up, you go to counselling. And what I would love to see change in this industry is that young couples get a counsellor at the beginning.
I agree.
And once a month you go to your counsellor and you bring the big stuff in that you and your partner can't quite work out, and you sit down and you work it out in a safe space. It's life-changing.
It is. And it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you know Patrick Bet-Davids.
Oh, the sales guy?
The sales guy.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah,
He's such
he's
a father
amazing.
figure. My friend met him in Vegas just recently. I was so jealous. I was like,
Really?
damn.
Oh man, that's so lucky. He spoke a lot about like relationships on one of his podcasts because business, success, and everything else in his life, he has more control of. He can actually focus on scaling and always look at the numbers. But with relationships, he just focuses on it one day at a time. Rather than a lot of people see what they're going to be doing in the next 10 years. And I feel relationships is one of those things you don't really have control of most of the time, right? And you need to be able to truly understand each other. I can't speak about like gays and others, but I only know relationships between men and women, right? And for men and women, we're two different creatures at the end of the day. And what we feel can be completely different compared to what we think as well. And I feel we always need to be able to communicate in the relationships.
Yeah. And where do you learn that? Where do you learn that? You fall in love, you get all these the dopamine and oh my God, I'm in love with this person. And then that kind of wears off and you're like, whoa, okay, how do I do this next part? No one told me. So communication, we all say we got to be better at communication. How do you do that? So you actually have to learn how to do it. And even as a dating coach, I can't put that weight on my shoulders in my own relationship. My partner would come to me and go, well, you're the dating coach. Can you work it out? Or I would try and work it out. And I go, do you know what? I need support through someone else who can be the mediator. Because there's certain things, it's hilarious. I was talking about this the other day. My partner's not going to listen to me if I give him advice about what he should do with even his lower back pain. All right, for example, let's just choose something that's not too heated here. But when I went to a movement coach and I went and I said, I'm having great success with my niggling knee when I run.
That's smart.
He went and now he's like, oh yeah, Marty, our movement coach. He's like, he's fixed my back, this and that. That's great. He wouldn't listen to me, but he'll listen to someone else. And this is like groundbreaking stuff because you can't expect to be the person that can solve your problems in your relationship, and nor should you. And the general thing that I see is most women, I talk to my sister almost every day about our relationship dynamics. She, in her relationship, my relationship, me and my siblings have always been like that. We've always had these great relationships to talk about and break things down and try and work it out. But you can't do that within your own stuff. And I think it's important to have that outsider to support you.
I 100% agree. And I feel that's where a great coach or counselor comes in to help with those relationships, because it's exactly like sports. Like when you're competing, you don't really see what you're doing out there. You can feel and you have an idea being in there, but from an outside perspective, they can give you a different opinion compared to what you can actually see when you actually, for example, I'm wrestling on the mat.
Yep.
Right? And when I'm wrestling someone, they might be moving a certain way where I can score, but I can't see it. Until I listen to my coach's advice, I won't know that situation is there where I can actually score those points from taking him down. And I feel that's the same with relationships, where a lot of people tend to see the patterns way before you do. And even before, like, let's say you're both going through that dating scene where everyone knows you're going to get together, but the only two people that don't know is them two.
Yeah. I know, it's so true. And what you just described there is literally one of the things that I do with coaching with men is I do a mock virtual date. So I set, like if you were my client, I'd set you up on a date with one of the girls on my team, and then we would record the date. And then I'm going to watch it back and break it down. It's exactly the same as, when you're a pro athlete in any sport. Absolutely. You're going to record it and you're going to then sit back and watch and go, oh, damn, I didn't know I was doing that. Or, oh, that chick, she complimented me and I completely ignored it and kept talking instead of utilizing that opportunity to connect and build some sexual tension and let the chemistry flourish. You can only see that once you step back. So that's one thing that I really love about my coaching business and doing more of that. I think down the track I really want to start doing more events where you can come and it's a fun singles event where we've got activities, but one of the things is that you learn how to improve those communication skills in a fun environment, like what I'm doing online with those training videos.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I don't know, I want your opinion on this because your opinion might be different to mine.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to porn.
Okay, we're heating up here now.
Yeah.
The porn.
100%. I feel that is ruining men's confidence in terms of being able to go out there and put themselves out there and be sexual, where I feel a lot of them tend to have a certain expectation when they're going into socializing with women or just going on dates, and a lot of them don't tend to be able to commit fully into the relationship because they have that urge, that addiction of just wanting to watch online and masturbate to pixels. I just wanted to get your opinion on what you think about a lot of guys out there that are watching porn and that are struggling to put themselves out there to go on actual dates.
Yeah, look, porn always gets a bad rap, and I feel like with anything, right? Where you could drink too much alcohol, for example. You could consume junk food too much. Just like porn. It's just another coping mechanism that a lot of men choose, and they get addicted to it. They overconsume it. It completely skews their idea of intimacy. And there's so many other places to go to understand intimacy, and it's important. Otherwise, you're going to go into all your intimate experiences thinking, I might just recreate my favorite porn video, and it's just unrealistic, right? It's like,
Oh, man. That brings me back to, like, the first time I was ever going to do it.
Oh, no.
And I just remember watching porn just like, I'm going to do that.
Did you do it?
Yeah, I was like trying to do everything I saw in the video.
You did?
And I wasn't like authentic in the moment.
No. Yeah, it's orchestrated. I hate like anything orchestrated like that. It always feels so weird. It's just very strange.
Oh, but you live and learn.
Well, exactly. But yeah, porn is a huge topic in the dating space, and it does, men, they suffer badly from it. And if you're over consuming it, then you've got to wean yourself off, and you've got to get out there and face the reality of where you're at with intimacy. Maybe you've had no experiences. That's fine. That is fine. All right. You can be a virgin at 30 or 40 or whatever, right? You just own that, own it and explore and go to your level. But if you are over consuming that kind of stuff and it's affecting your mental health, and then you're going out there and you've got these weird expectations around sex and intimacy, it's going to feel really off. So there's a coach that I love, Cam Fraser. He's a sex coach for men, and he's one of the best that I've discovered that helps men build a healthier relationship with their self-pleasure, with their intimacy, how they express themselves. I think one of his courses is literally how to fuck like a porn star.
I think I've heard about that.
Have you? Yeah, you should interview him. I absolutely love him. He's so smart. He is, in Queensland.
Wow.
I've interviewed him a few times. I love his ethics. He's holistic. Anyway, I won't say any more, but total plug in there. Love Cam Fraser. And one of the things I talk about with flirting and learning how to normalize bringing up intimacy on your dates is through your own discovery in the intimate world, and actually talking about things that you might think are a bit dirty or naughty, or, oh, that'd be creepy if I talked about sex with a girl. Why? You're both adults. Why you can't talk about intimacy in a normal way without it having this sexual connotation? Yeah. Men have so many breakthroughs when they realize that.
I feel that's a big thing, and you need to be able to talk about sex, and I feel that implements you as a man, that what you're actually looking for in a woman. Yeah. And vice versa.
If a guy can't talk about intimacy on a date, I'm out of there.
Yeah.
I am out. If I bring something up and he gets all uncomfortable with it, I'm like, oh, okay, this guy's not on my level. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but we're just not a good match, So I think it's important as, men and women, when you're on your dates, bring up things that matter to you, or bring up things that are non-negotiable for you, or, just plant a little seed. It's all about the subtleties. When you get really good at being charismatic, or being a good conversationalist, or being someone that, is able to connect, it's very subtle. It's a subtle art.
It is.
People might not know, what you're asking or what you're working out about somebody, but it's happening.
It is, and I feel as well you need to be able to make someone comfortable to be able to open up like that and express how they feel about certain topics if they're interested in talking about certain parts of sexuality.
Yeah, just bring it up. And if they are like, oh, what the fuck, I don't want to talk about that. Cool, that's fine. You've just learnt that. So then you can redirect the conversation somewhere else. And that's just as good. You're accumulating and understanding, this new person that's in front of you. It's so exciting.
It's so much fun. So much fun. It's what gives you like a lot of thrill about getting to know the person and what they actually like.
What gives me the thrill?
Yeah,
Or, yeah, I mean, everyone's so different. I think when you start to date a lot, right? Like if you've gone on lots of dates, it can be really boring. You're doing the same thing over and over again. You could have the same date hundreds of times if you do it in the same way. So when you expose yourself to more dates, now suddenly you start to freestyle a little bit. You know, a bit of freestyle wrestling. You're familiar with
absolutely.
that? Yeah. Okay, now you're freestyling because you're like, cool, we're always going to have small talk. Small talk's just there. How's your day? How's your weather? Was the traffic good getting here? You just know that's going to be there. So at least you understand there's a general structure to how you're going to have this conversation. What do you do for work? What do you like to do on the weekend? You know that this shit's going to come up. When you do it over and over again, now you suddenly realize that you can throw some curveballs in there because you're comfortable. I've been here before. I've had this conversation before. I'm gonna throw something in the mix here and sort of see how this guy responds to it or see how she responds to it. And then she's gonna come out of that date going, that guy was different. That experience was different because you didn't do the typical date that every other guy does. And that's how you're going to stand out. So,
yeah, definitely.
You know, if you haven't had lots of dates, you're just getting the basics down, focus on that. Just what do you do for work? But then start to build it up and do some freestyling and throw some curveballs in. Now you're both going to be able to create really amazing experiences that you just can't do if you haven't, exposed yourself enough to it. Yeah, that's when dating becomes fun.
It does.
Yeah, I went on like a date last night and it was like literally we met and then it was just this fun short interaction and it was like, what are you doing after this? I'm like, I don't know, just getting a cheese platter and wine. Why? It's like, well, where are we going? And that was his line. I was like, I like that. That's confident. That's bold. And I can say yes or no. It's
true.
That we're all adults. You can say yes or no. And that's a skill that you got to learn in dating. But I love that. Like the courage for a guy to be able to do that and face potential rejection.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I feel it's like different compared to what you would say, can I have your number, compared to let's exchange numbers.
Yeah, or where are we going?
Or where are we going?
How subtle is that?
It's subtle and it's casual. Like,
yeah. I'm like, where are we going? I think that's what I said. I'm like, where are we going? Is that what you just said?
Definitely.
It's fun, you see, but that it comes with time. Like, you can't expect yourself to be this charismatic genius straight away. You got to be very kind and patient with your journey because that's what it is. And then you'll start to have fun with it. You'll start to let loose a little bit and not take yourself so seriously, not try to get everything right on your dates. And that's when I think it becomes really thrilling.
That's fantastic. And just one last question. What is one thing when you are an older lady with grandkids, what would you like to be remembered by?
An older lady with grandkids? Wow.
Let's throw that imagination out there.
What would I like to be remembered for? My goodness, I hope that people, were positively impacted by me. I hope that I had amazing relationships with people and left them in a position where they were, more enlightened or I put a smile on their face. Honestly, I think whether I only know someone for a day or I know them for a lifetime, that's going to be the most important thing for me, is that quality of the relationship or the impact I had on them. I hope it's mostly good.
That's fantastic. And I hope to do this again sometime. And thank you for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Leave a 5-star review, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Justin. Thank you.
No problems.
Well done.
Perfect.
Woo!
Really good.